Hey everyone, I'm Sarah from Helping Babies Sleep. I'm a sleep consultant. And today I want to talk to you about why I had to sleep train my son and the reasons people ultimately have to sleep train. If you're listening, I want you to type and tell me what you are struggling with right now. Is it something about your baby not sleeping through the night or having naps on you or having to rock for an hour before you fall asleep? But whatever it is, I want you to just type in the comments any question that you might have, and I'll answer it here on Facebook Live. But again, I'm Sarah from Helping Babies Sleep. I'm a sleep consultant, and I also want to tell you that I have a free Helping Babies Sleep support group. It's called Helping Babies Sleep Support Group, and I moderate that group, but there are lots of members with babies of different ages, toddlers, newborns, 7 to 8 months, and you can post in there and get comments from other moms who are suffering the same things as you are, or I'll give you some tips and tricks too that can help you get some more sleep. So again, please feel free to type in and tell me what you're struggling with. Okay, so let me tell you about my journey. So I am actually a chiropractor by training, and when I had children, I had a midwife and a doula, and I really was drawn to the whole attachment parenting philosophy. Things did not go that way from the get-go. We had to have an OB come in for the delivery and whatnot. But I continued to nurse on demand and co-sleeping and the whole 9 yards, but it just did not work out for me. And I wrote a blog about that, a blog post called How I Failed at Attachment Parenting. So I clearly remember a few things that led me to the point where I decided, okay, I have to change something here. I have to sleep training. The first one was when we were co-sleeping. I heard him crying and I was looking for him, and I started going through the sheets, but I couldn't find him. It was a really terrifying feeling. And then I looked over and he was safely stowed in the bassinet. So I'd been so tired at the last feed that I'd put him in there and I just didn't remember doing it. That was a really scary thing that kind of left a mark. I was like, okay, this is not working. The second thing was he was so super fussy at night. My husband and I, we didn't know what we were doing. This is our first. We didn't know. And he was crying and we just couldn't figure out what he needed. And I remember just being like, okay, I'm just going to try putting a boob in his mouth and see what happens. And it quieted him down instantly. And I thought, I think he's addicted to the boob. I think I've trained him that this is his soother. And then the third one was realizing that I'd trained him that the boob was a soother. I tried to get him to sleep without nursing, and I rocked him, and it took me almost an hour to get him to sleep, and then he woke up 20 minutes later crying and not happy. So I knew that this was not working for us. So that's when I decided that I had to do something and had to sleep train him. But one of the things that really bugs me out there is when people say, I don't want to do cry it out. Well, cry it out. There's a big definition problem going on in there. Cry it out means you close the door and then you just don't go back in. And it's called extinction, and I don't believe in that. And a lot of sleep consultants don't believe in that. And the reason being is I was trying to envision myself from being in the child's shoes. So if I was a child crying, I'd be like, why is no one coming? Like, can they not hear me? Maybe I should cry louder. And that just doesn't seem fair to me. So sleep training does not equal close the door and not go back in. That is not sleep training. Sleep training is setting your child up for success by watching your awake times, making sure they're getting enough nap times in during the day, and then ultimately you have to break some sort of a bad sleep association. So most kids, the issue is that they associate nursing with falling asleep. The other common sleep crutches or sleep associations are sucking from a bottle, using a pacifier, being rocked, sleeping on someone or beside someone. Those are all common sleep crutches. So ultimately, people decide that they have to sleep train because they have a major sleep crutch that they can't overcome. And usually, too, these kids are really overtired. All kids into the toddler years need 11 hours of overnight sleep, like uninterrupted. You know, you may have night feeds when they're younger, but you don't count that time because they're not really asleep. And when you have kids with bad sleep crutch associations, they ultimately wake up almost every 3 hours at night. And then they need that association to fall back asleep. So that cuts into their nighttime sleep. And so you get caught in this vicious cycle of being overtired. When a child's overtired, it makes it harder for them to fall asleep and then stay asleep. So you'll see people describing that it took me forever to get him to sleep and then he woke up 20 minutes later. Well, he was overtired by the time you tried to make that happen. So those people that are sleep training have overtired kids, and they realize they have a sleep crutch that they just cannot overcome. Now, when I work with a new client, everyone always asks me, well, is he going to cry? And unfortunately, yes, your child is going to cry. That is really unnerving, and no one wants to hear their baby cry. But people reach a point where they say, okay, the way we're going on right now is not healthy for any of us. I'm tired, my husband's tired, my baby obviously has big black eyes under their, big black bags under their eyes from being tired. Like, this is not working for us. So we have to do something to create a better life, better quality of life for us so that we're healthier and happier. And one thing that I've noticed over the years of doing sleep consultations is that almost everyone describes their baby as happy on their intake form. Say, describe your baby's temperament, and people will write, he's really happy. And then at the end of the sleep training, they're like, I can't believe how much happier my child is. We're having less tantrums, less fussiness. And that's because this child is now well rested. So in those first few months, it's really hard to understand our kids, and often we confuse the signs of fatigue for hunger. That's what I did with my son. Every time he fussed, I offered him the breast because I was following a whole natural philosophy, but really what I was doing is I was masking his signs of fatigue with the boob. I was using it as a soother. I didn't know that, but I know that now. Okay, so I want to read you a post that I had the other day from someone in my Helping Babies Sleep group, support group, and she says, I have my son is 7, almost 8 months, and he wakes up 3 to 4 times per night, and I have to nurse him back to sleep. My husband and I are both working, and we're extremely tired. Do you have any suggestions? So this is really tough. I can't imagine how tired these people are to have to wake up that many times and then continue working the next day. Very, very difficult. The trouble with these questions, and I get this kind of question very frequently, is I can suggest little tips. So one, make sure that you're getting your baby down before they're overtired. So for example, if your child is 7 months, their maximum awake time is 2 hours and 45 minutes. So they have to be back asleep by that at the very, very most. Okay. One very common mistake people make is bedtime. It's usually based on when dad comes home or when it's good for the family. But up until 9, 10 months, it really should be based on when your child woke up from their last nap. So for example, if that 8-month-old woke up from the last nap at 4 o'clock, she has a 2 hour and 45 minute maximum awake time. So 4 o'clock plus 2 hours is 6 o'clock. So she has to be back asleep by 6:45 p.m. That means putting her in the crib probably around like 6:30. Okay. If you're putting her down at like 7:30, she's already exhausted by the time it's bedtime, and that'll leave you at the risk of having trouble getting her to fall asleep and then multiple night wakings. So back to this family with the 7 to 8-month-old who wakes frequently through the night to be nursed back to sleep. My first question would be how does she fall asleep at bedtime? And no doubt she falls asleep by being nursed. And often people say, but I'm not nursing her to sleep. She's still awake. I put her in the crib and then she closes her eyes and rolls over. But her sleep, she's not putting herself to sleep independently. She's still using the nursing to relax herself so that she can drift off into sleep. If mom took nursing out of that equation and just tried to put that baby down, there's no way she would fall asleep right away like that. And that's how we know that the nursing is the sleep crutch. And so then when she wakes up 3 hours later, she doesn't know how to fall back asleep into the next sleep cycle. So she's like, Mom, come, I need your boob. And often people in this situation will say she sucks for like 2 seconds and then she falls back to sleep. So the sucking motion, so it's off a breast or a bottle, it's the same thing. It's very relaxing, it's repetitive, it's soothing. It's kind of like being on a train with that repetitive, soothing motion, okay? So as for suggestions for this family, one, I said, that maximum wake time. And then the second thing you have to overcome, so that's the one thing I can tell everybody is, and you can download my awake chart. I can send you a link for your awake time for your child by month, okay? But then the second thing you have to overcome is that sleep crutch. And this is a much bigger obstacle to overcome. And this is when you actually have to sleep train. And when you sleep train, or sleep teach, as I like to refer to it, because that's what we're doing. We're teaching your baby how to fall asleep without some sort of major external help. When you sleep train a baby, you have to have a plan. You don't just say, okay, I can't go on like this anymore. I'm just gonna close the door tonight. I'll check on her a couple of times and that's it. You have to think ahead. You think, okay, if I'm going to send one message at bedtime, I need to be sending the same message about how you need to fall asleep at every night waking and for naps the next day. The most important thing with sleep training is to be 100% consistent. This makes it easier for your child to learn and understand what's happening. If you're not going to be consistent, it's really unfair to your child because they're confused. They're like, well, she fed me at bedtime and now I'm up in the night and I need help falling back to sleep. Like, why isn't she feeding me now? Like, that is just not fair. Okay. So please don't just decide you're going to sleep train that night. Think about a plan. You want to have like four or 5 days where you can be home or have a very consistent schedule so that your baby doesn't have to sleep on the go. This makes it easier for her to be successful at it. I'm also a big fan of sleep sacks when you're sleep training. Sleep sacks that either zip up the front are my favorite, because then you can turn them around when they're toddlers and keep them in the crib for a little bit longer because it inhibits them from throwing their leg over the side of the crib. So a sleep sack as a cue that it's bedtime, and then for naps the next day. One, it really helps children feel secure, comfortable, warm, and it also inhibits their mobility a little bit, because we want them to practice the mobility, but not at bedtime and not in the middle of the night, during the day. So it's just a really helpful tool that I found to be very successful. Again, if you're just joining in, I'm Sarah from Helping Baby Sleep. I'm a sleep consultant, and we're talking about why people sleep train. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments, and I will address them as they come in, as I can. All right, so back to the sleep training. We talked about the message being 100% consistent and giving the same message at bedtime, at night wakings, and for naps the next day. Naps will always improve slightly more slowly than the nighttime sleep, and that's just because there's more light. They kind of know you're still awake. There's more activity in the house, and that's just kind of the way it is. But you start the messaging with bedtime. There are many different types of techniques that you can use. There's lots of different books. I'll post a blog link that I have, a post that I wrote about the different types of sleep training that exist out there. And you want to pick one that you feel comfortable with. And yes, there's going to be crying, because crying is your baby's way of communicating with you. And I think in our society, you know, we tell parents that a crying baby is an unhappy baby and that mom needs to fix that, to stop that, to mute that emotion. And you know what, for 0 to 3 months, yes. After that, though, I think we need to acknowledge that our children are capable, and really what we're doing in all those periods is we say it's sleep training, but actually we're sleep retraining, because we've already actually trained them about how to fall asleep by using the boob to soothe them, or the rocking, or whatever sleep crutch you have. We've used that. And the crying, we need to acknowledge the crying and talk to them and tell them what's going on and respond to those cries for sure. But we don't necessarily have to mute them, because we are giving your child a great gift, and that is the ability to relax themselves so they can fall off into sleep. And we know that sleep is important, and it's part of a healthy lifestyle. And you kind of have to change your inner mantra. Instead of saying, oh my God, I can't do this, I'm abandoning my child, we have to say, okay, I've given you everything you need. You are loved, you are fed, you are dry, you are warm, you've been acknowledged. I have nothing left here for you. I'm here, but I cannot fix these cries for you. And this is actually a great lesson for your child to learn as they move through those toddler years. You know, you set out boundaries and you calmly and confidently stick with them. And there's a reason why people continue to sleep train, and that's because it works. It gives children the ability to relax themselves into sleep and be independent sleepers, and parents get much more sleep, and they feel really empowered by the fact that they can give their child everything they need: food, love, environment, put them down in their crib, and then be able to walk away. Okay, and that child will babble, chit chat, and then roll over and fall into sleep, because, you know, that's after night 7 or so. She knows that this is the way it is now. This is the way it is. Okay. So let's see here. We talked about, how can we help my loved one sleep longer at night? That's basically what it was. And you can't help your loved one sleep longer at night unless you give her the gift of being able to roll herself into sleep, to relax herself down into sleep. Let's see what else. We have another question here coming in from a 4-month-old. So my 4-month-old, is it too early to sleep train, is one of the questions. So I sleep trained my son at 4 months, but I was really confident that he was getting a lot to eat. So because I'd used the boob as a soother, he weighed 20 pounds at 4 months. So I knew that he was getting enough to eat during the day. And the other thing I should mention is that sleep training does not mean that you have to take out all your night feeds. Okay. So there's a way we can do it where you're setting up the same messaging but still getting calories into them over the night. I'm big on breastfeeding, and it does not mean that you have to take out all those night feeds. And we can assess, your child's weight. If they're maintaining their weight curve is a really important thing to talk to your physician about. Um, there's a variety of knowledge levels from physicians about night feeding and how many times they need to feed overnight at different ages. But that's something that I can definitely help you with. And so 4 months, I don't think it's necessarily too early, as long as you feel like your breast milk is well maintained, and your child is gaining weight well. So I want to mention again that I have a free Facebook group called Helping Babies Sleep Support Group that I moderate, and you're welcome to post questions there. And there's other moms of a variety of ages that can help out and just kind of validate what you're feeling and give you reassurance that things will get better, or that you're doing the right thing. Okay. I'm going to post some of the blogs that I mentioned, the blog posts, in the comments. And that's about it. Thank you for joining me. Bye-bye.